Hello everybody, my name is Kara and today I am here with a nice big book unhaul. I have a ton of books to unhaul. Some of them have been sitting in boxes ready to get rid of for quite a while and it's time to get them out of here. Now I'm really good about unhauling books I have already read and that I know I won't reread, even if I enjoyed the book. If I know I'm never going to want to pick it up again, I'm pretty good about recognizing that and letting it go. But I'm not so great about getting rid of books that I haven't read because I'm like, what if I just don't know that I'm gonna love it? But then Misty from Book Rat Misty did a couple of unhauls. I know a lot of people have been doing book unhauls recently, but she did a couple that really emphasized books that she had been hanging on to that she hadn't read yet, and she kept saying I'm gonna get to it, I'm gonna get to it, and she just came to the conclusion that she wasn't going to and it was time to let them go. So that was kind of what inspired me to actually dig deep and get rid of the books that, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm probably never going to read. Alright, so without any more intro chit chat, I have one of the three big boxes here on my lap, so we're just gonna pull stuff out and talk about them. So first I have Coriander by Sally Gardner. Now this is a perfect example of a book that I did really like, but I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna reread it. I'm actually very sure I'm never gonna reread it. And honestly, I didn't read this that long ago and I'm already forgetting quite a bit of the things that happened in it. So I think it's time to pass this one on. Next I have Starflight by Melissa Landers. This is kind of the same story. I liked it, I didn't love it. I don't really want to read the sequel because I've heard kind of mixed things about it. Next I have First and Then by Emma Mills. Emma Mills is such a beloved author, and this was a Pride and Prejudice inspired story, so I'm doubly disappointed that I didn't love it. I have one other book by her that I am going to give a try, but I really didn't like the main character. I didn't like the way some of the things, the important issues in this book were handled, and I just thought this was okay. Another Jane Austen-esque book that I really wanted to love but didn't is The Jane Austen Project by Kathleen A. Flynn. I actually talked about this in, I think, one of the first wrap-ups I did, and again, liked it, didn't love it. It's a little hard getting rid of this one because I do love the portrayal of Jane Austen in this book, and some of the time travel stuff was fun. But I really couldn't connect to the main character at all. It was almost like she wasn't a main character, she was just a vehicle for the story to get told. Next, I have a whole trilogy that I think might be one of the oldest series on my shelves, the ones I've had the longest. And that is the Shobhana Trilogy by Suzanne Fisher Staples. Shobhana, Daughter of the Wind, Haveli, and The House of Jinn. I hung on to these for so long because this was one of the first historical fiction books I read when I was younger, really young, late elementary school possibly, and I did really like it. I actually read this book multiple times from the library before I got it as a gift from my parents for my birthday or something. But I recently reread it and I just didn't like it as much anymore. And it's one of those series where awful things happen to the good people in the books, over and over and over again for no other reason than the author thinks it makes it a better book if there's a lot of suffering. And I have since seen some reviews that say that the portrayal of the Pakistani or the Cholistani cultures are really not good. That Suzanne Fisher Staples did not do a good job with her research. So that's another reason that I'm just not going to go back to these, and it's time to get rid of them. Another trilogy here. I have the Castles Ever After series by Tessa Dare, Romancing the Duke, When a Scot Ties the Knot, and Do You Want to Start a Scandal? Actually, come to think of it, I don't think this is part of that series, but I read the Romancing the Duke. I read the first book. I really didn't like it. I didn't like the romance, and since it's a romance, historical romance novel, if you don't like the relationship, you probably aren't going to like the book overall. I did really like the female character, but I've come to the conclusion sort of that I like historical books that have romance in them better than historical romance, if that makes sense. Austenland by Shannon Hale. I like Shannon Hale, but I have heard some very bad things about this book since picking it up, and I no longer have any desire to read it. And then I'm also getting rid of In the Coils of the Snake by Claire B. Dunkel. This is the, book 3 in the Hollow Kingdom trilogy, which, if you guys remember, I hated that first book. I don't own the second one, and I know I'm not going to want to read this, so getting rid of that. And another Shannon Hale book, The Book of a Thousand Days. I recently read this one and it was just a mediocre kind of 3-star read for me. Next I have Anna Dressed in Blood and Girl of Nightmares by Kundera Blake. I read the first book and this was another one that I gave 4 stars to at the time, but thinking back, I actually had a lot of problems with it, and I'm also just not a big horror person, so I don't really want to read the sequel, and I've heard really mixed things about it anyway. Also, content warning, there is an animal death in this book that I haven't seen mentioned. It's really, really sad, and I guess because it's a cat, people didn't feel the need to warn about it because it wasn't someone's beloved dog dying. Can you tell I'm bitter about that? Next, I have Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr, and also didn't like this book. This is like a fairy series that I feel like it was popular like a few years ago, and I liked the portrayal of the fairies in this book, but I didn't really like anything else about it, like the main character or anything, and I have since heard from people who have read like the whole series that I probably won't like it, so I don't think I'm going to continue either. Definitely don't want to hold on to this book. Next, I have The Secret Horses of Briar Hill by Megan Shepherd. Now this one I actually really like. It's kind of a heartbreaking story in some places. I think I'd have to be in exactly the right mood for it, so I might see if my library has it, and if it does, I could get rid of this copy. I'm also getting rid of Attachments and Eleanor and Park, both by Rainbow Rowell. I've come to the decision that Rainbow Rowell is just not one of my favorite contemporary authors, and I'm never going to want to reread these. I don't plan on reading anything else Rainbow Rowell puts out. The only reason I'm not getting rid of Fangirl is because my sister really likes that book, so I'm not going to get rid of that one. Next, I have Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. This is a very beloved book, and I just didn't like it. I don't have any intention of reading the sequel, and I think I'm not quite as into pirates as I thought I was, I guess. Also, Unhauling the Sin Eater's Daughter by Melinda Salisbury. I have talked at length in wrap-ups and tag videos about how much I didn't like this book, and even though it is a beautiful cover and a really interesting concept, I just don't need this book anymore. I am hanging on to the other two in the series because they follow different characters and everything. Like, it seems very different from this book, so I'm gonna give the series one more chance, but I know that even if I absolutely adore the next two books, I'm never gonna want to hold on to this one. Also, Unhauling Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. I'm picturing, like, if Rocky from Blonde with a Book is watching this, I feel like I'm really hurting her soul. I might read this in the future. This is like, it sounds like it should be something I love because it's Jane Eyre, but Jane kills people, and it's kind of implied from the back that she may kill the Mr. Rochester character or something, and I hated Mr. Rochester. Like, I couldn't finish Jane Eyre, but I started reading this, and even though the writing was very, like, good, like, objectively it was very, like, well developed, I guess, I did not like the main character. I didn't like being in her head. She just felt very, like, pretentious to me, and this is just too much like Jane Eyre for me to like it, I think. So maybe someday I'll read it from the library, like I'll borrow it, but I don't want to hold on to this. Next box. I am getting rid of the entirety of the rest of the Wicked Lovely series by Melissa Marr, because same reasons as I stated for the first one. I'm pretty sure my library has all the books, so if I'm ever, like, desperately wanting to read this series, I don't need to hold on to it to do that. Also, Unhauling Retribution Rails by Erin Bowman. I did really like the first kind of companion book, but this was a huge disappointment. I didn't like anything about it that I loved from the first one. Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman. Really didn't like this. Mentioned it in a wrap-up. Also, Empress of a Thousand Skies by Rhoda Bellezza. This was a sci-fi that I was really hoping to love, and it was kind of confusing. I think it had some good, like, messages it was trying to develop. I don't feel like it did them effectively, and I don't plan on reading the sequel. Next is Spindle Fire by Lexa Hillier. Now, I really liked the writing style of this book for the most part, so I'm not opposed to reading something from this author in the future. This could have been so amazing, like the dark kind of fairies who tithe things from, like, children and from people in order to, like, get more power. I think that was such a cool concept, and even though I liked the fairy aspects, unfortunately the human story really took over and I didn't like that one at all. Also getting rid of The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I read this very recently. I liked it. I didn't love it. It's like kind of the same story as a lot of these, but I loved almost everything except the main character. But I hated Hazel so much. Like, I thought she was so dumb, and, like, her decisions made the plot so frustrating that I don't think I'm ever gonna want to reread this. Unhauling Heart's Blood by Juliet Marillier. This was in my last 5-star TBR predictions, the one I already did a wrap-up for, which I will link down below in case you missed it. I think the middle of this book was amazing, but there were some things about the beginning and the end that I really didn't like. I love fairy tale retellings, and I love Beauty and the Beast retellings, so I thought I would love this, and I just didn't. Unhauling A Tale of Two Castles and Stolen Magic, both by Gail Carson Levine. This is really sad because Gail Carson Levine wrote some of my favorite books of all time, ones that I grew up loving and I still love to this day. Like The Two Princesses of the Mar just has a part of my heart forever. but I read this first book and it was very average. So I have no intention of reading the sequel, especially since I heard the sequel is even less impressive. And you know what? You can have a favorite author and still unhaul some of their books, so. I am also unhauling the complete Grisha Trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. Shadow and Bone, Siege and Storm, and Ruin and Rising. I was just so disappointed in this entire reading experience. I have a full review and discussion, which I will link down below in case you're interested on my full thoughts. But even though there were some things I did like about this series, and I do plan to read the Six of Crows duology, I'm just really upset about it. I don't think I'm ever gonna want to reread it. Okay guys, we are finally on the last box here. Also unhauling the Shadow Throne by Django Wexler. This is book 2 in a series that I haven't started. I'm like reasonably interested in still reading the series, but I'm not gonna want this massive hardcover taking up space on my shelf. Also unhauling the, Remnant Chronicles series by Mary E. Pearson, The Kiss of Deception, The Heart of Betrayal, and The Beauty of Darkness. I read the first book. I did really like the writing style and some other things about the books, so again, Mary E. Pearson is an author who I will possibly seek out in the future, but this series I just don't think is for me, and neither is this protagonist. Also unhauling Every Breath and Every Word by Ellie Marnie. This is like a Holmes and Watson sort of retelling, but it's like Mycroft or Moriarty. It's Mycroft. I didn't even remember. I read the first few chapters of the first book, and the writing was really good, but I had no interest in continuing, so I won't. And then I'm also unhauling Jessica Rules the Dark Side by Beth Fantaschi. This is the sequel, like an unnecessary sequel to a book that I did really enjoy. I'm holding on to the first one because I liked it, but this was just very odd and I think unnecessary. I don't think we needed this sequel. Also getting rid of this Praise for Borrowed Names book. It's like poems about Laura Ingalls Wilder, Madam C.J. Walker, Marie Curie, and their daughters. Because this was my fault. I didn't look into this book enough before buying it. I thought it was like poetry collected about these women, and it's actually just this one author who wrote a bunch of stuff about these women. Like there's no like historical element to it at all, and I thought it was going to be a bunch of different poets, and it's not. So that was my fault, but I'm getting rid of it. And then I'm also unhauling A Tangled Web by Ella Montgomery. I had so many mixed feelings about this book, and even though there were some scenes, there were some like story subplots that I liked, there were a lot more that I didn't. I'm also getting rid of Conspiracy of Blood and Smoke by Anne Blakeman, which is no surprise because I didn't like the first book at all. And I'm also unhauling Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kann. This is a beautiful cover, by the way, and I really loved so much about this book. Like, I love the main character, I love the representation, but a lot of the actual like plot elements and Alice, the main character's relationship like with other characters, which was kind of the core of the book, I didn't like, so I might reread this in the future because there were some really good parts, but I think someone will be thrilled to find this in a library or in a bookstore. Also unhauling The Hollow Kingdom by Claire B. Dunkel, nobody is surprised. Also unhauling Flytrap by Frances Harding. I know, shocking, my favorite author in the whole world. But that is because I have always hated these covers, and they're actually reissuing this duology in a really pretty edition. I had the first one already, and I know that it shouldn't really matter for a book, but for your favorite author, you kind of do want to have nice copies, I think. And this is not a good representation of the story or of like this author's work, so I don't like this cover at all. And finally, I'm getting rid of Prince of Shadows by Rachel Kane and Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now, I guess this is like a relatively unpopular classics opinion. I actually really enjoy Wuthering Heights. I just already have an edition and I don't need this one. And the reason I'm getting rid of Prince of Shadows, I liked this, but this is a like Romeo and Juliet sort of epilogue retelling thing where it follows Benvolio and Rosaline, and I actually have another book that has a similar kind of premise, and that is Still Star-Crossed by Melinda Taub, which I talk about a lot. One of my favorite books of all time, and I think that it's hard to beat that one, and even though I liked this, I didn't like the plot nearly as well, and I didn't think the characters were as well developed, and I didn't think the romantic relationship was as good either. So even though this is a very well written story, and I wouldn't like hesitate to recommend it to people or anything if this is what you're looking for, I just don't need to hang on to it. Okay everybody, so those are all of the books that I am unhauling. By the time this video is posted, they will already have been donated or resold or given to people, and it just feels really good to clear out books that you either know you're not going to read or that you have read and you're being honest about the fact that you don't actually need to hold on to them. Please let me know in the comments some books that you have let go of recently if you're getting into the unhaul spirit. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you soon with another one, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!